Hi there, it's Dave. I was just programming in a little bit of a Olivier Messiaen score from the last big orchestral piece that he wrote called Éclairs, lau-delà, Illuminations of the Beyond, and this was part of the second movement called the constellation of Sagittarius, which is at the center of the universe, or center of the Milky Way galaxy. And I've always loved this little section. I've only put in half of it here, but you'll see there's this beautiful melody, and then there's this very unusual accompaniment and some interesting sounds that go on, and then there's something in there that I want to draw to your attention that I think is really interesting. So let me just play this. So it's an amazing piece of music and orchestration. It's so strange in many ways, but so beautiful in other ways. So there's a couple of things I want to share about this. One of them, I'm going to start off with this because this is a mind blower to me, right? But you might have picked up on it, but there's this in the woodwinds. They're playing Birdsong. And it's called from a bird called the Alpine Accentor. Messiaen actually wrote in the scores, as he did in his later works, he actually notated what bird was singing in his particular score. Now, he used to go and collect these scores, birdsong in person, so he wouldn't grab a recording off of the internet and write it down. He would travel to the place where that bird would hang out, and he would wait and he would listen for it, and then he would write it down on manuscript paper. He wouldn't take a recording of it and use software to do anything. He would sit there and work it out in his head and write it down. Now, I want to play you this because this blows my mind. But this piece of music was released on CD in about 1991, I think, and it was probably written over the year or two preceding that, so probably like 1989, 1990, when Messiaen was in his 80s. And this is what he wrote out. This is directly from the score. That's how it sounds. Whoops, pressed the wrong button there. So that was the Birdsong. He notated it in the score as the Alpine Accentor. I went and found online, I googled the Alpine Accentor, and found a recording of its song. Now, he went out, I don't know when he went and toured around and notated the song of this bird, but he wrote this music in this score in probably 1989 or 1990. This recording was taken in 2021, a good 30 years later. So here's Messiaen's version. Oh, I'll solo the woodwinds so you can hear it properly. What have I done there? Oh, there we go. Solo the woodwinds. This is the recording. Now, bear in mind, this is a species of bird. It wasn't the same bird. So this is another bird 30 years after, at least 30 years after he notated this down. It's another bird of the same species is doing the same song. And it's recognizable. So not only did he hear it and write it down and orchestrate it in a way that was close enough to how the bird sounded for us to be able to recognize it, but 30 years later, a different bird in the same species is singing the same thing. I haven't done anything to that recording. That's straight off of an ornithology website. That is kind of mind-blowing to me. I will let you have a think about that, and please say in the comments if you have any thoughts about that. It kind of spooks me out a bit, and I find it kind of weird. Anyway, the other stuff that's going on here is there's this beautiful melody that is played just on the strings. It's kind of haunting, melancholy, lyrical. Accompanying this is some low chords. Now, I thought it was just on the horns because it was quite quiet and quite low, but there's actually horns and bassoons playing the same thing. These are quite interesting chords. And this interesting chord at the end. There's a whole lot of whole tone stuff going on here. So this is centered around a sort of C7th chord. Then this adjusts slightly and goes to an F sharp major chord. And then there's what D, there's a E flat chord. Back to the F sharp, then to the C7th, then to the B flat 7th. It just moves down a whole tone, and then you get this one with the F in the bass, the G there, and then the E flat there. It's just a whole tone chord which crop up quite a lot in this piece, but the whole thing has a very whole tone and tritone heavy based feel to it. Very unusual. Doesn't really fit in with your normal major and minor kind of system. It's just quite abstract and quite strange, but it goes interestingly well with this melody. Really beautiful. We've got the Birdsong there that I've already shown you, and then we've got the percussion here. That, let me show you these chords. These are all these notes are a whole tone apart. They just move around 3 whole tones all together. So it's more whole tone chords, but all the percussion is all resonant. It's all glockenspiels, crotales or crotales. I don't know how you say that. I've never heard anyone say it. Bells, triangles. In the score, it was 3 separate sets of bells all playing the same thing. I don't have 3 separate sets of bell samples. I've only got 1, so I've had to just do 1. But this is how all the percussion sounds together. So that adds a kind of rhythmic pulse to it. The woodwinds play this Birdsong over the top. We can play that with the percussion as well. So you see how the percussion sort of gives context to the whole thing. It gives a pulse, gives a rhythm to it. Otherwise it would all be quite free floating. But what's interesting here is if we've got this rhythm in the percussion, but we've also got these whole tone chords that are going around C, F sharp again, then D flat, F sharp again. The Birdsong woodwinds are all around F sharp, but it's a kind of whole tone thing going on there. And then these brass chords, C7th, B flat 7th, and then this sort of F, G, E flat whole tone thing going on. There's these 4 distinct layers of music going on, all whole tone related, but it's it's quite abstract harmony. You know, it's going to be quite hard to keep this thing together. The melody is not whole tone. It's sort of doing an A major, A minor thing, but with a sharpened fifth as well. So you've got A, D flat, C, E flat. It goes down to F. But the G is sharp, so it's very not whole tony, that scale. So it doesn't really fit in with the rest, but it works. Now I've got my kind of pet theory about this section, about what it's representing, and I'd like to hear your comments about this, because I'm maybe pushing things too far, but I feel like this string, well actually no, I'll start with the percussion. I feel like the percussion is mechanical. It's like a clock, like a cuckoo clock, ticking and ringing. And I feel like that represents abstract physics and kind of sort of scientific abstraction. It represents time and algorithms and formulas. It represents numbers, in my opinion. That's just what I think. It feels kind of, it feels kind of abstract and number-based. It feels scientific. The woodwinds, obviously, as Birdsong, represent nature and living things. So we've got sort of abstract scientific things. We've got living, non-human, but living things. This brass here, this low, earthy sounding brass and woodwind. It's sort of the base that everything else is on, and to me this kind of represents the planet that we're standing on, the earth, the soil, the rock that we're standing on. This is what that represents to me. It's earthy, it's deep, it's low down, and it's underneath everything else, and it just feels like the rock and the bedrock that everything else is built on. And then this melody, to me, represents human expression, singing. And you put it all together and you have human expression, our world that we live on, nature, wildlife, living things, and we have science and the abstract concepts that underpin reality. And then you put it all together and suddenly you have everything in the universe singing together, one song, in harmony. Is that pushing it too far? Is that too wild a metaphor for what's going on? Maybe. Maybe I'm reading into it more than is there. But it makes me wonder why he would put those things there, those specific things there in that way, if it wasn't meant to mean something more. Why would they be so completely different in all these sections? What would they be there for? What would be the point of doing them? And anyway, I want to just at the end of all this, and please leave in the comments whether you think I'm pushing that metaphor too hard, or if I'm totally over egging this pudding. I just want to leave you with one more little look at the notated birdsong versus the recording of the birdsong. Oops. I want to click here first. What a thing to leave sitting in a score. That's strange. Does that bother you at all? Just something about it speaks to truth in an unusual way for music to me. There's something that freaks me out about that. Anyway, I hope this video has been interesting and enjoyable for you, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.